Two things I'll say. First, if you're going to start a startup, you need three things. It's either you have the money to pay your developers. If you don't have the money, you have the skill. If you don't have the skill, you don't have the money, you have the network. People in your network that you can bamboozle to come and build it for you. If you don't have either of those three, you can't be doing your thing. You can't do something else. Developers just want to collect their money. Forget all this. You know why? If you are building a startup, there are no guarantees that it will succeed. So why should you come and be spending all this time and money, energy with you when there's no guarantee that what you are building will succeed? Pay me. Let me be going. If you believe in what you are building, you will go and look for the resources. There's no way you are not going to make the mistake. So embrace it. Learn from it. Because that's the only way. Because in this entire journey of startups, there's no defined path. Your business model is evolving every month. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, it's afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I want the room to be a bit more energetic, so I'm going to ask again. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, thank you very much. How many people here are founders? Founders. How many people here have ever pitched on the stage before? 2, 3, okay. How many people here still have stage fright? Don't be shy, yo. This is where you're going to learn. Trust me, stage fright is something that you're never going to grow out of. Okay? But with practice, with knowledge, your confidence will grow, your courage will grow. But stage fright is something that is natural. Okay? So don't be afraid that, I have stage frights and all of that. This is going to be a very simple and straightforward conversation on how to represent your business in front of potential investors, customers, partners, and all of that. So pitching is not just about standing in front of investors. So that's the first thing I want to first disabuse our minds of. You are always going to be pitching. Okay? It's either you're pitching to your customers, you're pitching to investors, you're pitching to partners, and you would realize that each of these different segments, you cannot tell them the same story. Am I right? You cannot go to your customers and be telling them, this is our deck, we're looking for $500,000, right? You can't do that. And you cannot go to investors and be talking about, this number of customers we're looking for and all of that. It means that you must have different stories, different practice stories for each of the customer segments or each of the segments that you're talking to at any point in time. To guide us, we're going to go through about 10 or 15 slides. And it's quite interesting that it's exactly the same thing I'm wearing that I'm wearing now. Did anybody notice that? But I'll tell us a short story before I get into the material. If you're truly building a startup, then you must understand why it's important to be able to represent your business properly. Startups are harder than most types of businesses. Does anybody know why? Limited funds. Okay, well, other businesses also have limited funds, so that's kind of normal. You have more questions than answers. Have you experienced that? Why do we have more questions than answers as startups? You are still trying to prove something. And that is because you're building something that is new. You're solving an existing problem using new methods, right? And because of that, you have more questions than answers. Nobody has seen this new thing you're building before. And nobody knows whether this new thing is going to work. In fact, people don't like change, so they're going to be very skeptical about whatever it is you're putting in front of them. And therefore, it becomes more important to be able to be sure that what you are building is actually something that is needed. Because Unfortunately, we find many times startup founders build solutions to problems that don't exist. I'll say that again. You build a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Have you experienced that before? Maybe you haven't. But what happens is that if you have the ability to build something, the easiest thing to do is to build that thing rather than go talk to customers. And what usually happens after that is you find that, okay, we've built this thing and then nobody wants it. So part of why it's important to, before you even start pitching, is to know that I'm actually solving a problem, and that problem exists for as many people as can make it into a business. Because many times there might be a gap in the market, but is there a market in that gap? It's very important that you figure that out. Let's assume that you have discovered a truly big problem that you're trying to solve, and you are now trying to put it in front of potential customers. One of the first things that you need to be able to do is to define what the problem is, right? Back in 2018, we had so I have a background in digital marketing. I still do a lot of digital marketing services. And in 2018, we had a contract with Facebook to train business owners on how to use Facebook products for business. And we trained over 5 years about 70,000 businesses across Nigeria. And part of the training was to give certificates to people who we trained. By 2020, which was COVID year, we had a backlog of about 10,000 certificates that we needed to give out that we couldn't. The reason was because the tools that we were using to give those certificates out, they were free tools. We found them online. These were digital certificates because Facebook had given us a certificate. It had Facebook logo on it. And you'll be shocked that Nigerians love their certificates. People were using these certificates to get promotions at their jobs. This was a 2-hour training on how to use Facebook, as it's just a simple, this is how you create content on Instagram. They would take that certificate and go back to their office and say, see, I'm now a digital guru. And they were getting, either promotions or whatever it is. So those certificates were super important. We had a big backlog. Unfortunately, we couldn't find a tool that worked well. The tools that worked the previous year, by 2020, Facebook changed the design of the certificate, and therefore that tool stopped working. So I said to myself, let's solve this problem. I know the problem. I know 2 or 3 other Facebook partners who had the exact same problem, and therefore it represented a very interesting problem to solve. So I called up a developer and said, hey, I want to solve this. I have this challenge. Can we build something? And because I have a lot of hands-on experience working with developers, it was easy. I could give him sketches. This is what I want. This is how it should work. So we built out the application within 3 weeks and we launched it. So it was simply to just issue the certificates in bulk. This was our own internal problem. And after we did that, I decided, okay, let's put it out for others. Other people also need this solution. Educators, trainers, and then ultimately universities, because today you still collect paper certificates from our universities, isn't it? Between then and now, a lot of things have changed. And even though I cannot say too much about it because it's now going to be a federal government solution where certificates are going to be issued centrally and even verification is also going to be done centrally. That is to say that you never know how far what you're solving can become unless you start, right? So if you have already found a problem that you are trying to solve and you are sure that this problem is something that affects quite a number of people, then, and you can also solve it over the internet using internet technology, then you are in the right room. But it also means that you have to understand that you are going to need a lot more resources than you yourself can provide by yourself. And that's why pitching comes in. Because you then need to be able to put your story in front of people who can listen to you and potentially invest. Okay, so The first thing that you need to be able to understand is that there are different types of pitches. Who can tell me an example of a pitch that they know? There's a very popular one. Elevator pitch, yeah? Okay. What's an elevator pitch? Can you describe it to us? Like a 15-second pitch. Basically got the name from how long it takes to ride an elevator, right? If you happen to enter an elevator with somebody who might be able to give you money, how quickly can you talk about your business within that ride of the elevator? What does that tell you? It means that a pitch has to be short. It has to be concise. Because you cannot be talking story. You have to be able to distill the most important parts of what your story is about and go straight to the point. So we're going to look at some of that now. So we have a very short agenda that we're going to try and go through, and I would like it to be interactive. Feel free to stop me at any point and ask your questions. We'll look at what a pitch is, types of pitches, the duration, what's a pitch deck. How many people have a pitch deck yet? Have a pitch deck? Okay, good. What should be in your pitch deck? This is super important. And then understanding your pitch deck has many slides. One of the most problematic slides, as far as I'm concerned, is your market size. And there's all sorts of different ways to do it. And we're going to look at what I think works the best. And then we'll look at your most important slides and how each of them need to connect with each other. Okay? And then we can do Q&As after. So, since this is not a class where you're going to write an exam, I'm not going to read what the description is. You can read it, right? But a pitch, basically, is a very simple, concise presentation of your ideas, of your business, in front of people who matter to you. And usually, you are pitching for a specific reason. There's something you're looking for. It's either you're asking for funds, or you're asking for partnerships, or you're asking for whatever it is. There is a reason why you are pitching. Unfortunately, I think many times that reason is lost in the pitch. Now, a great pitch must have what? These three things. It must be very clear what you're trying to do. That is clarity, right? I've sat in on many pitches where at the end of the pitch, I'm like, please, who understands what they are building? You never want to be that founder where after they've given you 5 minutes to talk, and then the first question is, please, can you come again? No. That should never, ever happen. Because you've already lost the audience. So, your pitch must have a lot of clarity. Secondly, what? What's the second thing? Conciseness. What do we mean by conciseness? Well, straight to the point. Remember, it's a pitch. If you do it right, you will get the opportunity to answer questions afterwards. The challenge is that most of us want to fill the pitch deck with all of the information. No. You have to distill it to the most important, the most salient points. It has to be concise, straight to the point. And much more importantly, the last one is what? Correct information. Please don't ever lie on your pitch deck, or even in your pitch. Because you don't know who's in the room. Sometimes you say the market size for this thing is $25 billion. Meanwhile, there are investors in the room who have invested in the same industry, who understand it a lot better than you, and they're just looking at you like this. Or you say there's no competition. I hear that a lot. If there's no competition, is there business in this thing you're doing? Right? Is it viable? Right? And it's also worse if you don't know the competition. The question is, are you the right person for us to give money to if you don't know the people who are already in this line of business? So as a founder, and I understand why, as founders, we are what? We are eternal optimists. We are optimists. We don't ever see the negative side of anything. And that's reason we don't know how to look for competition. Our brain is not wired to do that. In fact, when we hear there's competition like this, hey, start having palpitations. You're like, they're going to come and steal my idea. But the fact that there's competition means that there is market. There's somebody paying for something in this market, and it's a good sign. Okay, so these three things are super important. If you don't know something in the industry, it's better you leave it out than to put something that's incorrect. Okay? All right. Going which way? I'm going this way. Okay. So there are many different types of pitches. We've talked about the elevator pitch. Many competitions that you might attend. The most that I see is 3-minute pitches. And in 3-minute pitches, usually you are allowed to use a deck. But another form of type of pitch that I see a lot is 2-minute pitches. And 2-minute pitches is without a deck. Do you understand the type of founder you need to be now? It means that you, as a founder, need to be able to pitch with or without your deck. At the Lagos Business School, there was a Lagos Business School initiative that happened sometime last year. And Akowe was going to pitch. There were about 15 startups pitching at that event. For whatever reason, goodness knows why, it was only Akowe's deck that did not come up on the screen. I was standing on stage. We're looking at the people in the control room. All of them were scrambling around, trying to find the deck. And the judges said, please pitch without your deck. Oh, Lord. If you were not the kind of founder who had practiced your pitch without a deck, what were you going to do? You will fumble. You will fumble. And if it is in a place where, or if you have a great idea that you have potential people who might fund you, what does that tell about your preparation? Preparation for your pitching is super, super important. Sometimes, today, there's a lot of virtual pitching and all of that. So you can practice, you can do all of that on your computer and all of that. One of the things that I don't take lightly is understanding how long I've been given to pitch and making sure that I finish my pitch before that timer goes off. So what do? I time myself. If there's a 3-minute pitch you're going to go for, there's a timer on your phone, isn't it? Pitch to yourself. Sit in front of a computer and run it through multiple times until you can get it. What's going to happen is that you will figure out that there are some slides where you spend the most time. And there are some slides that you think, this slide is not needed. Let me take it out. Because if you do a good job and you finish before time, and this idea is interesting, you will get questions that can then allow you to elaborate. One of the biggest things you need to prevent is that you don't finish your pitch in the time that is allotted to you. It just automatically knocks you that this guy is not prepared. Okay? So there are different types of pitches, like I've said. And like I said earlier, you are not only pitching to investors. You can pitch to partners. You can pitch to your customers. And for each of those stories, they will be different. Right? What we're going to do, the exercise we're going to do today would be us pitching like we're pitching to investors. Right? Now, you might step outside and somebody will say, oh, what do you guys do? And you say, we do X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. Oh, tell me more about it. That person might be a customer. You're going to pitch to that person. That's going to be a totally different conversation entirely. And you need to be able to have rehearsed all of those things. In fact, one of the most important things you must rehearse is a single one-line sentence about what your business is. It is super important. So when they say, what do you do? That's not the time you are scratching your head. It's like Uber for this. No. You must have a very well rehearsed single sentence that describes what you do. Okay? That's very, very important. Okay. So duration. I've talked about some of this already. The most common you find is a 2-minute pitch without a deck, or a 3-minute pitch with your deck. Uh, yeah, and there are many, 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 many of different types like this. And what this helps you, 7-second pitch, 30-second pitch, 1-minute pitch, what this helps you to do is to really fine-tune your offer, what your problem is and what the solution is, in such a way that if anybody asks you, you know exactly what to say. And guess what? What you say now is not going to be what you say next year, because it's always evolving. It's always, always evolving. You will go to different programs, you will go to different accelerators, you would attend, you will meet with somebody who will say, oh, this is what you're saying. And you realize that that's the word that describes it better than you've been using. What do? You switch it. It's always going to evolve. In fact, your pitch deck is a document that you can never finish. Your pitch deck is always going to constantly be evolving because the business is evolving, especially because you are a startup. And because you are a startup, your business model is still in development. And because it is still in development, new information from the market will constantly filter into your pitch deck, and you have to constantly edit and refine it. So, one of the things that you have to be able to practice by yourself is a 2-minute pitch without your deck. I told you how this saved me on the stage at Lagos Business School. That's a big stage. You can't afford to fumble on that kind of stage. Okay? If you get yourself on that kind of stage, you need to be able to bring your A game. And it shows in your preparation. Okay? Another type of pitch is your 3 to 5 minutes pitch with your deck. That one gives a lot of time and all of that. But still, don't ever finish after the time duration that you've been allotted. It just gives the judges, you already scored -5. Right? Okay. Do we have any questions? Not yet. Now, we've talked about pitch decks. What's a pitch deck? It's basically that document that talks about your business in a way that it can get investors interested. And your deck, like I said, can be for investors, it can be for partners, and you would realize that at some point you're going to have multiple decks. There's a deck that you're sharing to different partners, there's one that is for investors, and depending on the partner, you might even have to change it, because what you're asking from this partner is not what you're asking from this other partner. So you can't be lazy about it and be sending the same thing to everyone. It's just not going to work. Okay? Now we're going to look at what are the things that should be in your pitch deck. How many people said they have a pitch deck already? Okay? Okay. Okay. Cool. Now, even though this is not an exhaustive list of what should be in your pitch deck, I find that this number of slides are important. And we're going to look at some of the how they relate with each other and all of that. And depending on where you are, if you're at early stage where you haven't entered the market, then you would have a go-to-market slide. If you're already in the market and you're making money, you don't need a go-to-market slide anymore, because that's now going to be, you don't need that. Okay? So we're going to go through each of them one after the other. The title slide. What's your title slide? That's what introduces you. That's the first thing anybody's going to see. So ideally, it should have the name of the startup. It should have a sentence that tells us exactly what you do. Okay? It should have your logo. It should have your website address. It should ideally, if you're in that space, itemize the SDGs that you are solving for. You know there are 17 SDGs. Yeah? That's your title slide. This is This is the first impression you're trying to create. And you remember that you don't have a second opportunity to create a first impression. You don't have a second opportunity to create a first impression. So that title slide has to be super well thought out. I've been on stages where we're looking at different startups come through, and the title slide, we really can't tell what they do. That just doesn't speak well about your presentation skills. So what should be on your title slide? Your startup name, what? The one-liner, your website, and what? SDGs, and what? Very, very importantly, your logo. Super, super important. Another thing that you must do is that your logo or the company name or the website address should be on all of your slides. All. Yes. Imagine, I'm looking at your slide. Your title slide is fantastic. And then I've gone down like 4 or 5 slides. There's no identity of who this is. I've forgotten the name. So don't make me scroll back up to go and look at what's the name of this startup again. Let it be top right. Put your logo there. Put your address somewhere at the bottom left. We're going to take a look at a proper deck after all of this so you can see some of the elements I'm talking about. So that's that about your title slide. The second slide is your what? Problem slide. What is the problem you are solving? Now, a common mistake that happens here is that people confuse the problem for the solution. They're already talking about the solution in the problem slide. Like if I ask you, what does your startup do now? What problem does your startup solve? You are more likely to describe the solution to me. You agree? If I ask you, what problem does your startup solve? You are more likely to describe the solution to me. And that's not the question I asked you. Your problem slide needs to be talking about the problem, nothing else. Because otherwise, you're mixing things up. We would not be able to see the solution that you're solving, that is solving the problem. Okay? The problem slide should talk only about the problem. Again, it's important if you can itemize it. So let's use some examples. And since you are all startup founders, I'll look for volunteers. Who wants to volunteer? Tell me what your startup is. Tell me the problem you're solving. Okay? Is there a mic we can give to her? We'll take about 3 or 4, so it's not only her. So who else wants to volunteer? You also volunteer, sir. Okay, good. Okay, you too. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Deborah Ayodeji, and the name of my startup is Contibellion Technologies. We basically are solving problems in the African creator economy, and the top 2 challenges is what we are tackling now, which is unemployment and lack of access to opportunities for creators.
Okay, that's very good. Thank you. Let's hear you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Shino Ajoy. I'm the founder of DMC Africa. The major problem we're solving in DMC Africa is the scarcity of artisans for facility for residents and homeowners and business owners. So, and we're also helping artisans also sell their products and services online because there's no standalone e-commerce platform that allows artisans to do this. Thank you.
Okay. Started with the problem, started talking about the solution. You see what I mean? Tell me the problem you are solving. I don't want to hear about the solution. Okay? Go.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Richard. I'm the founder of StaffRide. So StaffRide is solving a major problem around productivity for workforces, especially when it comes to mobility and the communication between the HR and the staff, basically.
Okay, I'm trying to understand it. Again, so conciseness, clarity. Again, you have a lot of words there, but it hasn't been, I mean, unless I'm incorrect, you haven't been able to really nail it to that sentence that just makes us, oh, yes, that's what he's talking about. Do you understand? This is pitching. We're going to have to learn how to take all of those words and redefine it into a sentence that is super, super clear, that nobody can misunderstand. Do you understand? But as we go along, we'll look at all of that. Who else wants to try? I think he wanted to try. Please. Okay, after you, then we'll come.
All right.
Wait.
So my name is Alex. I'm the founder of Decision Health. At Decision Health, so basically we're solving the problem of a lot of women today spend a lot of money and time on skincare solutions, trying to solve several skincare solutions. You see a lot of women having a lot of product on their shelf, right? Trying to find the right solution for them without access to a dermatologist. So today, we're solving that problem by helping them access the dermatologist.
Okay, so helping people solve skincare problems. Okay, thank you for that. Let's hear you. Please bring it. Hang on. Let's give you the mic, and then we'll take him, and then we'll continue. Yes, sir.
Hello, everybody. My name is Yinka Johnson. I'm the founder of Medic's Guide Shop. You know, we're solving a problem for customers. It's an e-commerce platform in health tech for customers that want to get medical devices and first aid kits. And these problems they have problems of purchasing delays, high prices, unsure qualities, and, you know, how to use those items. You know, so our platform is solving those problems. So we're going to do them, you know, take them one after the other. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Everybody is trying to stay with the problem, not go into the solutions. Let's take one more, and then we'll go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Israel Adeniran. I have a startup called Stronger Health Tech and Logistics Services. We are solving the problem of not having access to quality healthcare solutions and related services, more or less like preventive healthcare, instead of focusing on corrective side of it.
Okay, but I thought I heard something about logistics as well.
Yes, that has to do with
okay. So you're joining the two together.
Delivery, sample, delivery, report, and all that, drug and all that. Yeah.
Okay. I would rephrase that and not add logistics, because it just throws us into a totally different vertical, and then that starts to confuse potential audience listening to you, because you're delivering the health products you're talking about, right? So just leave it at the health. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Okay. But yeah, the lesson here is that your problem slide talks about the problem. More importantly, if you have numbers that can help whoever is listening or whoever is watching to contextualize the size of the problem, that works. Okay? So for instance, on Akowe's problem slide, you see something that says 33% of job seekers use fake credentials to get jobs. That's the problem. You've been able to use numbers to help quantify it. Okay? Now let's go to solution slide. Solution slide should be ideally your third slide. And this is where you are now speaking about this fantastic idea that you're trying to develop. Okay? And that slide is as important as the problem slide, because this is where we evaluate whether you are truly innovative or you aren't. Because each of the problems that you've listed in your problem slide should have corresponding solutions in the solution slide. If it doesn't, question is, okay, are they really solving this problem? If you've been able to itemize 3 problems on your problem slide, your solution slide should cater to those 3 problems in a way that makes us understand that this is a solution to those 3 problems. Is that clear? Okay? Now, your market size is very important. Again, I know one of the biggest misconceptions is that my business is a startup because it's just starting, right? Your business is not a startup because it's just starting. Your business is a startup because there is the ability to scale very quickly using the internet. And because you can reach 1,000 customers, 1 million, 10 million customers over the internet, you have the ability to scale across regions that are not geographically limited. A startup is very different from an SME, like a bakery or a fashion design or a laundromat that is super geographically limited. Okay? And because your solution can scale over the internet, the size of that market becomes very important. Investors are looking for a problem that is big enough so that if they give you money, they can get what? Outsized returns. That's the only reason why investors are interested in giving you money. When you invest in an SME, the returns you can get maybe 30% per year, maybe 40% per year. Startups can deliver up to 500%. That's an outsized returns, right? Imagine if somebody gave you $5,000 and then in 5 years, that money has grown to $100,000. It's almost impossible to see that with SMEs. So your market size is super important because they need to understand what is the size of this problem? How many people have it? Is it only in Nigeria or does it spread across West Africa, the entire African continent, emerging markets? Is it something that spreads across the entire world? Okay? And there are many ways to be able to figure out how do we know the size of our market. Okay? We'll look at that in one of the other slides. Then, very important as well is your business model. You know, as a startup, you don't yet have an established business model. You're trying to define a new business model. You're trying to solve an existing problem using new methods. You need to be able to have defined by your own methods, this is how we are going to sell this thing. I'll give you a practical example. I told you a story earlier of how we started Akowe and we were trying to issue certificates to large numbers of people. One of the many questions that I had after we had built it and it had worked for us internally, we had issued all the certificates, the backlog that we had, and I called one of 2 other partners who I knew who had the same problem. So the first question I had was, how do we sell this thing to them? Because there has to be a logical method by which we could charge them money. Otherwise, it's just be, okay, you pay this amount, you pay. No. Business doesn't work that way. You need to be able to standardize the business model. So I thought to myself that, okay, since the core of what we are solving is being able to issue certificates to large numbers of people, so let's sell it based on the number of people they wanted to issue certificates to. So, and there was already an existing model we could borrow from. There were bulk SMS platforms where you buy a number of SMS based on number that you needed. So, okay, good. So we'll sell issuance credits. One issuance credit is 500 naira. You want to issue to 10 people, pay 500 times 10. Okay? So that was a fair, logical method that we could use. Okay? In your startup, whatever it is that you're doing, you need to look for that fair, logical method that you can say, this is how we are going to sell it. Okay? And it's super important, again, because whoever is listening to you wants to know that you have thought through the business. You've been able to arrive at a price. Because that's another thing that is very, very hard, because it's a new model. You don't know how people are going to react to your price, and it becomes a very difficult question to answer. But at some point, you figure it out. Another slide that comes after that is your traction. What have you been able to do so far? And this is where you start to separate yourself from, I have an idea. right? Because when you have an idea, it's just in your head. But if you've progressed from I have an idea to actually doing something, then you can put it in your traction slide. Now, traction doesn't always only mean revenue. Okay? Even though revenue is an important type of traction, revenue means that you've started selling and people have started buying what you're selling, right? Traction could be partnerships that you've signed. Traction could be number of users who have signed up. Traction could be awards that you've been given, or competitions that you've participated in, accelerators you participated in. Traction could be how much you have raised. Okay? This is very important because potential investors want to know, okay, you are telling us about this problem and this is your solution. What have you done about it? What are the signs that you are moving towards some success? So that's what should be on your traction slide. Your competition slide is super important as well. This is how we know that you know the market you are going into. And the rookie mistake here is to say there's no competition, like I said earlier. If there's no competition, then there's likely no market. So it's important as founders, even though we know that we are eternal optimists, we only see the positive side of things, to be able to research people doing exact same thing. And if you're unable to do it because of how positive you are, get somebody on your team to do that research. Okay? Depending on what you're solving, you might have local competitors and global competitors. Okay? And depending on the stage where you are at, it might make sense to only list the local competition. And if it's super important, you might also mention that there are global competitors and kind of show how you differ, how you are different. And one very important thing that we see all the time on this slide is how this startup that nobody knows has all of the differentiating factor and how they are going to win the market while the wheels don't have these features that they have. You know, your entire business might be a feature on somebody else's business. They just turn it on and knocks your entire business out. So while it is good that we are trying to portray that we are innovative, let's remain realistic. Let's remain super, super realistic. Many times, the people you are pitching in front of, they have maybe even invested in the competition. So you are here now telling them that they don't have this feature. They don't have this thing that you have. And they're just going to tell them that there's one guy that says people don't have this feature. They just turn it on. And guess what? Your business is dead. So it's important to really know where you are in the landscape and position yourself appropriately without making it look like, yes, you're the next best thing after sliced bread. Your go-to-market strategy, you might have that slide if you're just starting and you haven't gotten into the market. But if you're already in the market, then you probably won't need that slide. Your traction will show that we are already in the market, we have this number of customers and all of that. Your projections, you may or may not put it into your deck, depending on the stage that you are in and stuff like that. But it's important to show to whoever is receiving your deck that based off of your understanding of the market, these are what you are projecting as revenues over the next 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. Okay? Your team. I can bet with you that this is the most important slide on your entire deck. And the reason is because you, as the founder, you cannot build this thing by yourself. You can't. Your team is the most... It is your team that would either make all these things worth it or just pack and go home. Your team slide is one of the slides that investors will look at. Who are the people leading this thing? Because when they give money to you, who are they giving money to? It's you, the person, not your business. So they need to know, is he a first-time founder? What experience does he have? what are the leadership qualities this person has? Has he been able to attract other high quality people to the team? Because that is the job of the founder. If you are unable to attract high quality talent to your team, there's no way your business will succeed. This is the hard truth. And I know that one of the biggest challenges you say is, but we don't have money to pay them. And you figure it out now. That's why I found that resourcefulness is one of the things that you must have. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it some more. There are a few things you can do to attract talent. But your team slide is super, super, super important. Because if they're going to give you money, they're entrusting funds in your care. And that slide helps them see what your leadership abilities are. Who have you been able to attract to yourself? And they're going to do due diligence. They're going to pack people and just put them as your team and say, these are people on my team. These are people who are our advisors. Real investors will do the due diligence. And if those people say, hey, I don't know him, you see how you've lost out. Yeah? And finally, the entire reason why you are pitching is to ask for something. So it's important that you end with that thing you're asking for. What are you asking for? It's not always money. It could be partnerships. It could be mentorship. It could be, integrating into whatever API is available. Whatever it is you're asking for, it's important that it's clearly stated. And that should be like the last slide before thank you and your contact details. Do you have any questions? Have a question? Mike? Where's the mic? Okay.
Hello. Yeah. So a bit away from what you said.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. A few times I've met with some investors and all of that, and then be like, we like your product, is good, your traction is amazing, XYZ, but you don't have a co-founder. And I don't know.
Okay, go ahead.
And especially most of them will be like, we have one of our major competitors is like Shortlers, but
okay,
Shortlers anyway. So they'll be like, you don't really have a co-founder, and we want like a female co-founder. I'm like, I've not found. That be putting out.
I totally understand.
So why is it always like that? What is the rationale behind this? Feminine co-founder, or you must have a co-founder structure kind of thing?
This man wants to throw me under the bus. Okay, I'll explain. I'll give you a politically correct answer, and I'll also give you a reality answer. Okay. Now, the entire startup thing, Africans have only just started to come into it, say in the last 10 years or thereabouts, right? Before startups became a thing, it was perfected in the West, right? Many years before we started to look at those type of models for our own businesses. And over there they found that successful startups have always had, not just women, wait first, calm down. I've always had more than one founder. The most successful startups have 2, followed by 3, followed by 1. Okay? An investor wants to ensure that the money they give to you, you will not just disappear into thin air or go and buy a Range Rover and start, right? Now, that doesn't mean that if you have a co-founder that it cannot happen, right? But then again, over there in the West, where the kind of poverty that is here is not over there. So the person is not thinking to buy a Range Rover. He has access to car if he wants car. Okay? So that's the first thing. Then the second thing goes about women, where we know, statistically proven, that when you empower women, you empower a lot more people, right? So So that's the second thing. That's the political answer. Now, the reality of the matter is that in Africa, our experience is different. Our experience is very different. Unfortunately, they take those models and want to infuse it here in Africa. It has worked over there, right? So it's natural for them to want to impose those scenarios here. But guess what? Count the top 10 startups that you know. About 70% of them have sole founders in Africa. That's because we are different. The things that are chasing us is not what is chasing those people, right? So that's one. And I think that over the next few years, that model, VCs will start to realize that, okay, we can't use that exact model over there here. But that's also because we don't have enough homegrown investors. If we had more homegrown investors, many of those people who have built their own businesses built it single-handedly. When you go to them, they would recognize that this person can do it. Do you understand? So we don't have a lot of homegrown investors who understands startups. They understand the type of investment where at the end of the year, they'll collect dividend. They don't understand startups. So you find yourself in that situation where they ask you those questions and you really don't have an answer. And in fact, the solution is not for you to go and find a co-founder. Because even when you're looking for, it's not as if they are there to find them. My solution is build the business to be so successful that you can't be ignored. That's the only solution. Because nobody can argue with results. Because once you can show the results, then investors will put their money. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Okay. Somebody else has another question. Where's the mic, please? Please collect the mic from her. Victoria, mic, please.
My name is Additional. I'm founder of DMC Africa. So I would not agree with you on the statement you made on the top successful startups. We have Paystack, co-founders. We have Andela. Yes, we have OP. We have MoneyPoint, co-founders. So I'm not saying that you are wrong, but I'm just trying to be in context to. I don't know what we're looking at to define successful startups.
So let me explain what I mean by that. So co-founding is that we started the business together, right? In all these startups that you've mentioned now, somebody started it first before afterwards they brought, come and be my co-founder. That's because they needed to meet some conditions for investment. A lot of the startups you've mentioned, one person started it. Paystack is different. They started together, right? Check Flutterwave. Even Andela are talking about. You know now. So if you go back to the history, you find that this person saw an opportunity, started to work on it, and then along the line, do you have a co-founder right now? You see what I mean?
So I have another question.
Okay, another question.
Yes, so there is this argument that we have most of my friends. So people say I'm the founder of this, some people say I'm the CEO. So
what's the difference?
Yes, because like sometimes you are wondering, okay, isn't that CEO are for very successful companies, then you have somebody to do the job, or it's very conflicting.
It's not very confusing. You can be the founder and not be the CEO. Okay? There are people who have brilliant ideas, but are poor at execution. Case in point, Uber. The story of Uber, if you watch the movie, the guy who has the idea, nobody even knows his name. But we all know the CEO who led the company for so long because they are ruthless at execution. Chief Executive Officer. Your job is to execute. But you might not be the person who brought the idea and founded the company. Okay, that's the difference. If you are the founder and CEO, then You have execution and you have ideas. So don't think too much about it. Okay. Somebody else has a question.
All right, so regarding the co-founding stuff, I believe the concept of co-founding kind of reduces micromanagement when it comes to sole founders. I don't know, but I've met sole founders like they're the only founder for the startup, and they are chronic micromanager. They don't know how to delegate an aspect of their businesses or startups to other people, because startup have like different sectors. You have the business, you have the technical aspect, but when you have like other co-founders, you can delegate. There's some certain aspect that you'd be like, oh, I'm not touching this aspect.
Yeah.
This is for this is for this co-founder, and they can manage the team under that aspect as well too. So I just think that it just helps you to like relieve the stress and delegate different aspect of your businesses as well.
Yeah, you're very correct. You're very correct. The whole point of having team members or all of that is because they are different enough from you. They have different skills that the business needs. So you're very correct. And yes, it can happen that if you started the business by yourself and you were carrying all of the weight, it's just weight that you are used to carrying. So even when you hire people, they have to tell you, put the load down, Oga. I am a victim of that, so I know. So they will tell me, Oga, put it down. We are here to help you. Do you understand? So it can happen, right? But again, I think that's where business knowledge is very important. Everybody needs to get educated business-wise. So business school, whichever way, is super important. Because founders seem to think that it is all about the technical stuff. No. You are running a business. You're just using technology to enhance it. So it's important that we get into that. Okay, thank you for the questions. Let's quickly finish the presentation. So let's talk about a practical method by which you can do your market sizing. Now, I'm sure you've all seen TAM, SAM, SOM. Have you? TAM, SAM, SOM, total addressable market, serviceable, obtainable market, and all of that. Yes, it's fantastic. But that approach comes from the top coming down. And that's very, very difficult. A much more practical method is to go bottoms up. Start from the bottom and go up. When you start from the bottom, you're asking yourself questions. Okay, this thing that I'm doing, how many customers can I realistically capture in 1 year? That's a question you can easily answer. Rather than how many customers exist in the whole world who have this problem. Abi? It's a lot easier to answer that smaller question. In 1 year, how many customers can I realistically capture? If you say that number of customers is 300, that's a good number. Okay? How much am I selling this service or this solution to those people? Let's say it's 50,000. Multiply the 50,000 by the 300. That's your first number. That in 1 year, this is the market I can obtain. Which is your what? Your sum. Serviceable, obtainable market. That helps you put realistic context to what you are doing. If an investor sees those numbers, you can defend it. But if you say the sum is X million dollars, and they ask you, how did you come about this number? Is it ChatGPT that gave it? Do you understand? You have to, if you start with the bottoms up, it helps you. Now you can then say, okay, we've done some. What's the next stage? Which is the middle number. That middle number could then be, okay, across other states in Nigeria, or perhaps West Africa. If that problem exists across West Africa, how many customers exist in that region? If I'm able to capture those customers and we multiply it by this same 50,000, then that's the same number. And then your largest number could then be, okay, if that problem is something that is Africa-wide, then let's look at what that number looks like Africa-wide. So bottoms up gives you a more practical approach to sizing your market. And it's always something that is more easily defended or defendable by you in front of your potential investors. I hope that is clear. Okay, good. Okay, now, your most important slides. You can see that I've highlighted some slides there, right? Your problem slide and your solution slide. Okay? Yeah. How do you get the correct data? Well, in Nigeria, where data is very, very scarce, data is very, very scarce. The best you can always do is to do like very educated guesses. Okay? I'll give you an example of Akowe. So, we're talking about, okay, if we're able to help institutions issue digital certificates, the easiest thing to do is, okay, how many universities are there? Thankfully, that's a definite number. You know, even though you might not get the exact, but you know that there are more than 250 universities in Nigeria, right? The number I know is closer to 300 now, but I can confidently say at least there are more than 250, and that forms the basis that I'm going to use. Now, another number that is important is, okay, universities graduate students every year. How many students graduate every year? Do a Google search, do some searches everywhere. There are many different places you might find that information. It could be how many people successfully go for NYSC, or it could be number of people who are graduating. That number is about 600,000, right? I can then say, okay, 600,000 graduates times how much do we issue the certificate helps you give that number. It might not be perfect, but it's practical enough that even investors can go with it. Do you understand? So think about the business you're doing. What is the closest thing you can use to figure out the number of customers? Maybe you should do an example. Tell me what you do. Your own call. What's wrong with your own? Okay. Okay, we could use skincare. Okay, skincare for ladies. Okay. So what we could potentially do is that we know that it's not all ladies that are affected with that problem, right? Sorry? Number of dermatologists. Are they the ones you are solving for? Let's first start from people who have the problem. Okay? Start from people who have the problem. So the people who have the problem are the ladies who have the skincare problems, right? We can realistically say that anybody below 12 is not your concern. There might be people in that age range who have the problem, but they are not the core. Okay? So we can say maybe from 15 to what? To 45. Say from 15 to 45. Right? Now, out of 15 to 45, not all women in that age range also have a problem. You can easily get, maybe not easily, but you can get the number of Nigerian women between 15 to 45. And then we can then dress it down and say, okay, maybe. Again, this is some reports you have to go look for. There are some reports that can give you the occurrence of certain diseases or occurrence of certain ailments. You know, acne, for instance, occurs in 3 to 5% of the population. You then use that to juxtapose that age range that you've. So if anybody asks you, you say, this is how we arrive at this number. Because it makes sense. Because you got the information from certain publications that allow you to be, you know, tactical in getting that number. Does that make sense to you now? Okay. Yeah. So your problem slide and your solution slide are super important and they must be connected. Like I shared to you earlier, clarity in itemizing the problem, clarity in the solutions solving those problems. They are connected. When someone looks at your deck, they must be able to see the connection. Okay? Secondly, is your traction and your team. That's another 2 slides that are connected. Your traction is important because business-wise, this is what you have been able to achieve. Leadership-wise, your team, this is what you've been able to achieve. And it is your team that helps you get the traction. So, investors will look at those 2 slides and see the correlation between them. Like, okay, you have all these fantastic people that you have packed together, but your traction doesn't show that you have these fantastic people. What's going on? Yeah? That's very important. And then, your ask. It's easy. Sometimes people forget why they are putting a pitch deck together. And then they tell all these stories and they were like, okay, so what do you need? There's no ask. Super, super important to always have that in your deck. And like I said, it's not always money. Sometimes it might be partnerships, you're looking for potential integrations or whatever it is. Okay? That's it. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something new.
Thank you, Ayodeji. So we'll take a few questions. I don't know if anyone has questions that he probably didn't address during the session. Do we have any questions? Okay.
Yeah, I have one more question. So first off, you said something around the space of when you're pitching, right, to maybe like a sect of investors or whatever, and then you're telling them, oh, I've got this, and they're like, oh, these competitors of yours can just switch on one stuff, and that is it. I've had a similar issue with someone, and they were like, oh, they could just switch up this. I said, you can't switch up this because you're going to change their entire narrative.
Model.
Do you understand? So sometimes, and one time I was building a startup with someone while I was still schooling, doing my master's some time back. And we pitched to this set of people that supposedly were investors, in the UK. And it was bad. Because whatever we told them was what they gave to these people sponsored, they invested into this particular startup that is like a competitor to us at the time. So they kind of like went back to
got
them and
answers
said,
from you.
Yes, and they went to fix it with these guys. So that alone, could it be that people should be sometimes a bit skeptical when sharing or pitching or whatever it is? This is like because there are sometimes some people just call you to accelerate. I don't attend accelerators. I just waste your time. You get what I'm talking about. But I just feel like it's much more important to ask yourself, should I do this here? Should I not do this here? Should there be any,
Yeah, I think you're trying to ask, should I share all of my
those are I think that you are getting me now.
Yeah. Why are you always asking questions that throw me under the bus? Okay, so I'll say this. I think as a founder, one of the things you must develop a keen sense of is your gut feeling. That feeling that tells you, this is how I should handle this, or this is not how I should handle this. And they don't teach it in business school. It means that you have paid enough attention to yourself, how you've reacted to similar events in the past, what has happened to those events in the past, and how you then go forward. I'll give you 2 examples. So, after we had built the certificate issuance platform, customers started asking us that, can you help us verify certificates? That was totally different from what we had built. But it was close enough that, okay, let's look into this problem. And we started looking into verification and we realized that, okay, this is even a bigger problem because there was so much fraud. And there is still so much fraud. And it's not just a Nigerian problem, it's global. Okay? We then, via one of my very close friends who has very high connections to the NYSC, we said, let's take this entire verification to the NYSC. And at that level, you know what can happen, right? So after we had pitched and they were like, oh, this is fantastic. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We went from the highest levels of the NYC down to the IT place. When we got to the IT place, that's where everything stopped. And then a few months later, NYC had its own verification portal. So yes, you can share your ideas and it might be taken and somebody else will build it. It can happen. It has happened. You know, what did that do for us? It made us realize that the route to market for us was not to go that route. So going forward, we stopped going to the top. We went to the market. So that if you gain market acceptance, you can then have partnerships later on. So sometimes there's no way you're not going to make the mistake. So embrace it, learn from it, you know, so because that's the only way. Because in this entire journey of startups, there's no defined path. There's no, your business model is evolving every month, you know. And today, the people who were taking our ideas are the ones who have now come to partner with us again. You know, so sometimes you don't know, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. The important thing is to be able to learn from those incidences and know how to, you know, move on later on.
So, my question is about co-founding.
About co-founding?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I've been in a situation whereby my co-founder, she has a clinic, right? And because she has a clinic, she kind of feel like somehow we're going to be a competitor.
Somehow what?
We're going to be a competitor to our clinic.
Competitor, okay.
Right, so there is a thin line between us serving as a co-founder for my company and our serving as the CEO of our clinic. So most times, in as much as we try to partner with the clinic for certain things like deliveries and all of that, it's disrupt some little involvement, like customer acquisition together and all of that. So how do you
navigate that entire thing?
Yeah, and also what are the possibilities with co-founding generally? Like, I know co-founding can be different for different startups. For example, some startups, like some investors or many investors, like some now will say, it loves to invest in founders who are sharing the equity, equally, or almost near equal. So, what's unique is that you need to tailor situations based on. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think your case is very, very, very different in the sense that you are co-founding with somebody who has their own business and who might serve as a competitor or might even serve as a partner. I think one of the things you must do is to, first of all, clarify a lot of things, black and white. Somebody who has a clinic, built a clinic and all of that, you have to realize that that's, first of all, their bread and butter, right? And it might have positive partnerships for your startup, but you have to also look at how they have to also act. Because whether you like it or not, you're putting them in between the two. Okay? And if they have a chance to choose, especially as your startup is still small, they will most likely always choose their clinic. Okay? So you have to really, really think through the model. Is there a way that you can partner with multiple clinics, not just her clinic? Early stage. So the question is, what exactly is this person bringing to the table that you actually need from them? What? Our expertise. Can you get that expertise elsewhere? Yeah. So that's why everything has to be black and white. Both of you need to have a very, very candid conversation. And that conversation is what I think founders at the early stage always shy away from. You go on vibes and, let's just be going. Hey, that's very, very dangerous. Because you don't know what your startup can become. Right? And when it starts becoming, things can become very, very ugly. It can end your startup if you don't have clear, written down agreements. It can end your startup. A few startups have ended like that in this Nigeria because at some point, co-founder relationships, co-founding is like a marriage. It's very, very important. So you can understand why a lot of Nigerian startups are so founders. Not only is it rare to find that person who you can build with starting from day one, it's very rare. But even when you do, there has to have been that level of trust that goes beyond whatever you have signed. So I would say sit with them and have a candid conversation. If you're unable to have that candid conversation by yourselves, get a third-party startup lawyer who understands startup law and who can have a conversation with both of you. All of those questions that you want to ask that you cannot ask because this person is your friend, they will ask it. And both of you must be able to answer it. And you don't have to answer it in that sitting. Go and think about it. Because a lawyer who knows what they're doing is an objective third party who doesn't give a care about all the friendliness that you have. Those questions are very, very important. Do you understand? So that's what I would advise that you do. Okay?
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is David Igberaise. I'm the founder of XGrow. It's a fintech. So what both of them said resonates particularly with me because it's part of the story of my startup. I had a co-founder who actually works in a fintech and was a software engineer. So we got together to start this startup. But somewhere along the line, I don't know what happened. He just literally ghosted me. And I haven't heard from him since. So I kind of tracked him. I found out that some of the ideas we brainstormed on together, he took it back to his startup, which he's a staff of. He's not even one of the founders, and adopted it there. So I would advise that, based on what my own startup lawyer told me, you sit down and have a legal setup and structure on whatever you guys are doing. Otherwise, it will come back to bite you. Now, I've moved on with this startup, but...
Painfully moved on. No?
Not fully moved on. It hurts like a divorce, to be honest.
That's why I said painfully moved on.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
But then, so what both of them said resonates with me. Nigeria, we're still catching up to this co-founder thing. Trust is a serious issue in
So let me tell you what helped me. Okay, when I was starting, I knew that I'm not a technical founder, so I don't write code. So I knew that I needed a developer, right? So what I did was to hire a developer. Okay? It can save you a lot of heartache. You have an idea, you want to build something, you don't have the technical skills to build it, hire a developer. Pay them. When they finish, let them go. Do you understand? You have the software, you have the solution, you are the business person now, go and make it work. Do you understand? That way, and my developer was, even though he also worked at a fintech, and he said, boss, let's do this thing on an hourly basis. So I was paying him per hour. Yes. But that worked because I'm hands-on. I have worked with developers for a long time. I have experience in digital marketing. So I can tell him, I can draw diagrams and say, this is how you should look. Not every founder can do that. Okay, so that worked. Paid him off, and that was it. So there was no question of we are owning it. You've been paid. Bye bye. Do you understand? So that is something that could also help in solving some of these heartaches. Okay. All right.
Okay. Good afternoon,
We're coming
everybody.
to you. Sorry.
My name is Olamide. I'm the director of sales at Akowe. So I was just going to lend a voice to what Ayodeji said earlier when the guy behind you was talking about pitching to people who could probably steal your ideas and all of that. So maybe another way to look at it, it just occurred to me while he was speaking, is do your due diligence. If you're going to be pitching to a set of people, I want to believe that you already have an idea who these people are. Do your own due diligence before you go and pitch your business. For example, I used to work in a company that we more or less pitch products to end users, investors. It was in a medical settings. So usually, the key stakeholders where we're going to are usually people who are invested in some brands because that was what they trained with at medical school. So if, as a medical doctor, I had trained with a GE. GE is a medical equipment brand and is an American brand. Of course, I would have like some sort of soft spot for GE. So what I usually do as the head of my department at that time was do my due diligence. Who is the chief procurement person? Who is the end user? What school did they go to? Who knows this person? It's a very small world, really. The medical systems. Once you ask questions, with top key people, about 4 or 5 people, somebody knows them. They finish from Unilag, they finish from this, so you have an idea. It's sometimes a process that a lot of people are not willing to go through, but it is very necessary. Because I'm talking to a crowd, and I know that Dr. Afolabi is a bit soft towards you. And I'm here because I used to represent a company that sells Siemens, which is a German brand. So when I'm talking, I'm first not talking to him as a salesperson. I'm acknowledging the fact that G is a good brand, but this is where it differs from my brand, which is a Siemens brand. So if you do your due diligence and you know that Ayodeji Agboola is the CEO of Akowe, and he's part of the people, of course, the fact that he's CEO of Akowe does not mean he cannot invest in other companies, right? You're coming to pitch a product that does similar thing that Akowe does. Aha. Yes. Yeah. That you're an investor doesn't mean you cannot be CEO or invested in other companies. He already gives you an idea. So it is now left to you to know how much to share. To know how much to share. Do you understand? Especially when you have learned where your product differs from Akowe. So you keep some to yourself and say the important ones, right? So that's just what I want to say.
Thanks for that addition. Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick one about market size. Because you said something about the SOM, the service obtainable market, that bottoms up is better. Mm-hmm. Because I'm just using this to quickly fine-tune our pitch deck here. Since you say SOM is most important, because we started from TAM, let me just give you quick figures. Like I said, we're into, it's a marketplace for niche products, medical devices, and first aid kits. Globally, we have it in 6 billion for, let me just take first aid kits. It's 6 billion for first aid kits, but for Nigeria, globally is 40 billion for first aid kits, and for Nigeria, it's 6 billion naira. $40 billion globally, 6 billion naira. Let me just quickly do that, Okay. Yeah, So, but I'm thinking now from what you said, maybe we should we leave it, for it to flow in the pitch deck? We'll first talk about the term, very briefly, and then put flesh into the SON. So that's my question from what you said. So I just want to know the difference, the changes we should make here.
So because you are pitching and there's an objective of why you are pitching, I believe that the objective of why you're pitching is you want to get interest from investors to have conversations with you that can lead to investment, right? The investor probably knows more information around the market size than you do, okay? Because that is all they do. They listen to pitches, they have analysts who listen to pitches, and they have a lot of information around market sizes in a way that you probably don't even have access to, because they pay for lots of reports that gives them numbers that you don't have access to because you don't have money to pay for those reports. So, what makes you stand out more is your own understanding of the market and how you want to grow from where you are to where might make you a big business. That's what you have control over. Do you understand? So it makes more sense to be able to show to the investor that we think that in 1 year we can capture X, Y, and Z number of customers, selling to them at this price. That is something that you have control over, not the investor, regardless of whatever the market size is. Okay, even if the market size is so big and it's so interesting, the reason he's listening to you is to see what can you do about it.
That's what we should highlight.
That's what you should highlight. So forget about the big number. They've seen it many times. What are you going to do about it? Okay? Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jackson Oshebo. Sorry, the code. So I'm the CEO of Siricon. So I want to ask a question. I'm actually going to talk about the team. You did mention about that is the calibers of people you have in your team. And from experience, I want to ask, how about you have people who love what you are doing, they love your business, and they want to support, probably by giving you some token to actually push the business. And these guys, they don't have the in-depth understanding of what you are doing, but they just want to be a part by giving you the funding. So what I want to
like
ask
your friends
is,
and family.
Yeah. So what I want to ask, and you actually said the idea of maybe the funding they are giving to you should be recognized maybe as a safe, hopefully, maybe when you are going for your seed round, it can be converted into what they call maybe a share equity and all of that.
I didn't say that here.
I know.
Yeah, I want to be
that
sure.
Yes, I know that. So how do you go about it now? You don't want to add them as a part of your team member, and they really
You mean
want
the people who are giving you money?
who are giving you money.
They're not part of your team now.
They are not part of your team, but they want to before they can give you that money. They just want to get shares. Yes, I've come across people like that. They want to get shares.
Okay.
So
Okay.
how do you go about that?
They are not your team members. They're like investors. Okay? When I say team here, sorry. When I say team on your slide, these are people who work in the day-to-day of that business. Team. The team here are not your investors. Your investors are not usually on your deck. Okay? Anybody who is giving you money to have equity or whatever.
Sorry, excuse me.
Okay.
I'm yet to get to my question.
Okay.
Yeah. This is where I'm going. You, as the business owner, you don't want to recognize them as investors in your business, probably because of the money, the amount they are giving to you.
Why?
So it's possible.
It's too small.
It's too small, but you
They are
don't.
investors.
And you need the money, but you don't just want to recognize them as investors. So what do you do?
Founder, I'm afraid of you.
Sorry. Go and speak to your lawyer. I think there was an underhand around here. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I have two questions. Actually.
One house.
So,
sorry, sorry, just indulge me. I think I need to address this a bit. Yes. You can't say that the money is small. You don't want to recognize them as investors. This, you see, you are building trust. Trust is currency. Okay? If people are willing to give you money, it's because they trust that you will do what you say you want to do. You must trust them back. So if you say the money they are giving, it just shows that you have ulterior motives. And that's going to backfire bigly. I don't know if bigly is a word, though, but bigly is going to backfire, right? Everybody who has helped you on your journey needs to be acknowledged. In whatever way you need to acknowledge them. Because you don't know where. See, Akowe's biggest investor today was somebody I met before I started Akowe. Imagine if at the time we hadn't had a good relationship. You can't think like that. You can't. You absolutely can't afford to think like that. Okay? See, one of the most important things you must do as a founder is the day you start this startup, document every naira and kobo. Everything you have spent, everything you have collected. Document every single thing. This is how you are going to be able to calculate valuation and things when you get to that point. If you don't do that, and if you are not acknowledging people who give you small money, I think the point has been made. Please don't think like that. Wait, somebody already has the mic. We'll come back to you. Please go ahead.
Hello, yes. So the first question is about speaking to the important part of the deck that you mentioned.
The what?
The important.
Okay, the important
part of
slide.
exactly.
Okay.
So basically, there are three that I address the question I want to ask.
Okay.
That's the market size and the competition and the business model. So, based on your own experience, particularly about the market, Nigerian or African market, how is it possible for us to build a market whereby businesses can be, startups can, be in existence as long as they should?
Sorry, come again with your question.
In respect to customers, purchasing power, right? So how is it possible? Because we know so well funds are probably a category of people, and so that's one. Secondly, will be about investors. More of the investment that we get in this part of the world comes from outside. How is it possible to be a community whereby, of course, although we know there are some, but of course more, so that more ideas will not just go down the drain and all of that. Thank you.
Okay, I think I'll answer your second question first. I'm not quite sure I get the first question. One of the things that was a shocker to me was first two things. After we built the product and we launched it, I went through an accelerator. I went through a Founder Institute accelerator. And that was important for two reasons. It helped me focus on the idea. Remember, we just built a solution that we wanted to use internally. But that helped me focus a lot more on it and made us see that there were many other aspects of the problem that we could be solving. And that also gave us a lot of access to other potential opportunities, because some opportunities come and you can only take advantage of it because you have been through an accelerator. There's no two ways about it. The Stanford Seed Accelerator is only given to people who have been to other accelerators. You can go and apply on their website from now to tomorrow. They won't choose you. So accelerators are an important part of your journey if you're building something truly, important. Then after that, we started talking to investors in Nigeria, and I'm sure you've all experienced it. Plenty story, zero money, right? But then again, after a while, the TechCrunch application happened. We pitched on a global stage, and that was my first experience speaking about Akowe to an international audience, and the experience was 180 degrees opposite to Nigerian investors. I had investors wanting to invest. One, they understood it. Because we're talking blockchain, blockchain, blockchain. Here, a lot of people are just saying, okay. They understood it and they wanted to invest. The only condition was you don't yet have the traction. Okay? Now, what has happened is that 100% of Akowe's investors today are all Nigerians. So the question is, are you looking in the right place for investors? Because in my experience, they exist. They just haven't found what to invest in. And what do we do? We use that entire experience of pitching at TechCrunch as it was a good milestone. We had bootstrapped the company from its beginning to getting selected by a platform like TechCrunch. So that was a good story to tell on social media to say, this is what we have been building. No? We have reached this place now. We cannot go further again. No? We need your help. Come and invest. Right? But then again, it didn't just happen. Before TechCrunch even, I had been very public about what we were building. On LinkedIn, on Facebook, I constantly would talk about the thing that we are doing. So we are gradually, naturally building a story of what you're doing. And the trust that people have in you, you can then spend it. Okay? So when I came back from TechCrunch, I then started to say, okay, I know now that we cannot continue bootstrapping. We need outside money. So I wrote a very simple document. This is the problem. This is where we are. This is what we're trying to do. This is how much we are raising. This is your minimum investment. Come and invest. And that's how we got investment. So there are investors in Nigeria. The question is, have you positioned yourself to be able to collect their money? And then again, another funny thing was that 100% of people who I thought would invest didn't. Everyone who invested were people who reached out to me and said, I saw your post. I would like to invest. I know them, but I would never, in my mind, have thought that they would invest. So I think your job is just to do what you do best. Tell the story about your own business in a very methodical, clear way, constantly. So that when you then ask that we need investors, you would have there'll be enough information that they can use to check what you are doing and the consistency. I hope that answers your question. In some way, Abi? Okay. That has been my experience, so I think anybody can do that as well.
All right. I don't know if this is part of what you're supposed to part of this, but please can you help us to navigate investors, founders and funding, how they go about funding, the return on investment for every funding. Okay. Because there are a lot of funding issues that TechCrunch used to carry about. So can you help us to navigate as a founder? How do you go about getting investors' money? How do you go about the return on investment? And even how do you go about practically managing those money to bring in those returns? Thank you.
We can run through just 2 minutes of it.
Using your your product.
Okay.
Okay, so just like a little heads up here, we're taking one more question after this and we're done.
Okay.
Sorry, just after him and then we're done. Okay, so...
Okay. So since the conversation is around how to pitch, and the object of that pitching is to get funding, I think it makes sense to talk about valuations and all of that. So we'll keep it very simple. Let's assume that at the start of your business, you've built something small, you have a few customers. Let's assume that your business is worth 1 million naira. Okay? Let's assume that you are the only founder. You're the sole founder. Maybe you gave somebody else 5% when you were registering the business, right? Which means that 100% of your business is worth what? 1 million naira. That's still simple enough, yeah? Now, because you want outside money to come into your business, basically what's happening is that this outside money is going to come in exchange for what? Equity. Equity is shares in your business, right? Now, you calculate the valuation based off of what the company is worth at the time that the investment is coming in. Now, if I came to you and said, okay, I would like to give you 500,000 naira as in exchange for equity in your business. Because your business is worth 1 million naira, that's simply half, right? 500,000 naira means that if you sell to me, then I would potentially own 50% of your company, right? It's simple mathematics. So that's how it works. Now, how do investors then get return on investment? It is expected that because I have given you this 500,000 naira, all of the things that you said you were going to do in your deck, you will do them. And it will help you get more customers. It will help you finish the product. It will help you increase your revenue. And therefore, the value of your company is increasing, right? With more customers, with more products in the market, with more partnerships, the value of your company is what? It's increasing. So, as at the time that I put in 500,000, the new valuation of your company is around 1.5 million, right? There's some mathematics around that. But when you do all of what you need to do and this company is growing, 6 months down the line, a year down the line, the value of your company could be maybe 5 million naira. It means, therefore, that the value of my 50% in your company has also increased because the overall value of the company has increased. If 5 years down the line, I then decide, you know what, I want to sell my shares to new investors, I will be selling it at what? At that new valuation. And that's how investors get what? Return on investment. So they put in 500,000 naira when your company was worth 1 million naira, and they sold it when your company was worth 5 million. So they will sell it at what? At how much now? 2.5. So their 500,000 has become what? 2.5 million naira. That's simple mathematics, how it works. So investors sell equity at a higher valuation so that they can get return on investment. But there's a lot of Rishi that we'll not talk about now. Okay. About founders that lie about it. So valuation is both science and art. It's a negotiation. Before the final investment into your company, they will do their own calculation as to what is the valuation of your company. Okay, they're not just going to take your valuation. They're going to really look at the books, look at number of customers, evaluate your contracts, do many, many, many things before they actually say, okay, we agree. And investors will likely price you down. It's you that will say, no, we are higher. So it's always a negotiation at the end of the day. Okay?
Good day, everyone.
Yeah.
My name is Ikechi Kadibia. I'm firstly a trader. I'm trying to build and I'm coming to startup.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome,
and
sir.
It is at the antenatal stage.
Okay.
So, and there is this problem that I've encountered, and I don't think it's isolated. You know, when you are talking of your own experience, you said you got a code builder and you paid him. Then I found that there are founders that don't have deep pockets. They can't pay these people, but they want to bring them in as the technical partners, maybe to become co-founders. But I found out that there is a challenge that many of the coders just want to do the job and collect money and go.
It's not a challenge. It's the reality.
Yes, sir.
It's just that it seems a challenge.
It's a challenge because you go around and it keeps...
Yeah.
So you find yourself in a place that you just have to maybe go alone and keep that by the side. Then also, bringing that in, there is another challenge which I need advice on counsel, because for me, this idea of having a remote builder, a coder, that you don't see, is a red flag for me.
Why? Why?
Because I have experience of people who tell you that some of them can ghost on you, and it's true. And you are putting in some money into it already. So I want your advice on that.
I think I get what you're going.
Yes, sir.
So, 2 things I'll say. First, if you're going to start a startup, you need 3 things. It's either you have the money to pay your developers. If you don't have the money, you have the skill. If you don't have the skill, you don't have the money, You have the network. People in your network that you can bamboozle to come and build it for you. If you don't have either of those three, you can't be doing your thing, no. You can't do something else. No, it sounds funny, but that's the reality. You said developers just want to collect their money. Forget all this. You know why? If you are building a startup, there are no guarantees that it will succeed. So why should he come and be spending all this time and money, energy with you when there's no guarantee that what you are building will succeed? Pay me. Then be going. If you believe in what you are building, you will go and look for the resources. Okay? So those are the first three things. Then the second thing, technology is such a beautiful thing that developers can work for anybody, anywhere in the world. So you have to just build in safety measures into your own processes so that nobody can run away with your code or whatever. My developers, I don't see them now. In fact, our CTO is based in Abuja. But we do weekly, daily stand-ups, meetings and stuff like that. So we know everybody's building what they need to build. Your job as a CEO is to make sure that there is a place where they are storing the code. And it is you who has access to that, who has overall access to that code. You know, these are all the things they will teach you in an accelerator. Okay, so I would advise you strongly, if you want to really build a startup, go through the proper channels. Go through an accelerator where you will learn all of the best practices. A class like this cannot teach you everything you need to know. Okay? There are many, many safety measures you can build into the fact that developers can work for you from anywhere. And they will get what you need, get it done, and you get the benefit of it. I hope we've all learned something new. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much.